How's it going, everybody? Beautiful Thursday morning still. This is the earliest that I've ever come to. Today, we're going to talk about new 49ers offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel, who's obviously been with the staff now for 4+ seasons, but he is now freshly titled the offensive coordinator after Mike LaFleur left to the Jets with Robert Saleh to be their offensive coordinator there. And I had a long piece about Mike McDaniel in The Athletic this morning, and it was the piece that stemmed from his first official press conference as the 49ers offensive coordinator on Wednesday, which I thought was just a fascinating look inside the 49ers offensive process, inside how Kyle Shanahan operates, and obviously inside the contribution that Mike McDaniel brings to this team, which I think is unique in as far as how the 49ers collaborate. And as we discuss this over the next few minutes, I think that you'll see that there might be a difference between how the 49ers collaborate as far as the offensive brain trust goes versus the rest of the NFL. Anyway, how's everybody doing on this Thursday? I want to get some water before we get going. And I also want to share the article with you on Mike McDaniel. Here is the link. It's going to go right into the comments. So be sure to sign up to The Athletic and get that for what, $2 or $3 a month? Not a lot. In fact, I'll share my screen very briefly so that you can see what this looks like. Do the window, do it over here, share. There you go. Mike McDaniel details his enhanced role with the 49ers in a cohesive partnership with Kyle Shanahan. Cool picture right here. That's Mike McDaniel with 49ers fullback Kyle Juszczyk. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. The reason that Mike McDaniel's in a helmet there is because he lost a bet a couple years ago to Kyle Juszczyk. Now, the first thing that you want to know about Mike McDaniel is that he's an Ivy League guy, Yale guy, played wide receiver at Yale. Obviously, Kyle Juszczyk is an Ivy League guy as well. He played really slot receiver at Harvard. Everybody thinks that he played fullback. Not the case. Kyle Juszczyk was the best athlete on that Harvard team, so they were using him a ton in the passing game, playing a lot of slot. He likes to call himself an Ivy League slot receiver, and obviously he likes being used in that role for the 49ers. The 49ers, they split Kyle Juszczyk out wide as a wide receiver, something like 28 times a year. I've kept track of those snap counts over the past couple seasons. So they really use him everywhere. He is your typical new age fullback, if such a position can be typical. I think Kyle Juszczyk is highly atypical because of how versatile and how adaptable he is and how Kyle Shanahan uses him. Well, it's funny because his fellow Ivy League guy, who's Mike McDaniel, is the one architecting a lot of the plays, and Kyle Juszczyk swears by the value that Mike McDaniel has brought to the 49ers offense over the past 4 seasons, because Kyle Juszczyk loves being used in versatile fashion. The 49ers are super intricate with their run game. That's the design of Mike McDaniel. Kyle Juszczyk gets to be used creatively in a lot of those blocks, and it also transitions into the pass game. And that's where I think Mike McDaniel is an interesting and useful voice in Kyle Shanahan's ear. Because with Mike McDaniel, you have a guy who has been coordinating the 49ers run game for 4 years. He has experience as a running backs coach, but he definitely does not come from a run-only background. In fact, Mike McDaniel's first position coach job was as a wide receivers coach. His first two position coach jobs were as a wide receivers coach. So he's been heavily involved in architecting Kyle Shanahan's passing attack as well. Now, over the past 4 seasons, the 49ers split those responsibilities. Shanahan had Mike LaFleur as his pass game coordinator, and he had Mike McDaniel as his run game coordinator. Now that Mike LaFleur is gone, because Mike LaFleur was great friends with Robert Saleh. They were roommates and housemates together over there at Central Michigan back when they were both grad assistants. That was under Brian Kelly with Joe Staley on the team back in 2005. Now that LaFleur is gone, he went with his friend Saleh to New York. Everything, the entire umbrella now falls to Mike McDaniel. That means that Mike McDaniel is going to be the architect of the pass plays, and he's going to be the architect of the run plays. Now, it's important to note that Kyle Shanahan still does have play calling responsibilities. So the buck still will stop with Kyle Shanahan on game days. Every time that the 49ers radio in a call on 3rd and 10, that's Kyle Shanahan's call. He has ultimate responsibility for it. But that does not mean that Mike McDaniel is entirely uninvolved with the process. Here's what Mike McDaniel does. On Monday through Tuesday, the first 2 days of the week, he's in there. He's architecting these plays. I mean, he's there designing the plays right now. It's the off season. A lot of people like to say that Mike McDaniel's a football nerd. I think that definitely came through in his press conference. This is a guy who, for a while, it looked like he might do the typical Yale track, right? There's a lot of Yale students in investment banking, Yale graduates, I should say, in investment banking, in business. Mike McDaniel did a summer internship in investment banking, and that's when he realized 17 years ago a truth that I think a lot of us realize about our professional lives and has caused a lot of us to take certain paths. And for me, this is true. This is what Mike McDaniel said. It registered to me while he was doing that investment banking internship that to be ultimately satisfied in my career, I had to be passionate about it. And unfortunately, there wasn't that much that I was passionate about besides football. So there you go. You have a true Yale Ivy League football nerd in Mike McDaniel. And that sounds to me, minus the Yale part, because Kyle Shanahan went to Texas, but the whole, unfortunately, there wasn't much that I was passionate about besides football. That sounds to me a whole lot like Kyle Shanahan, who, you talk to anybody, you talk to Shanahan himself. He's a guy that's obsessed with football. He lives and breathes it. That's what he cares about. Well, that's what Mike McDaniel cares about. And it is no coincidence that Mike McDaniel has been with Kyle Shanahan longer than any other assistant coach, 14 seasons with Kyle Shanahan. So you better believe that on Mondays and Tuesdays, Mike McDaniel is in that office grinding, looking at the opponent defense's film, designing plays. He's the mad scientist in there. He's the guy that gets a lot of credit for the 49ers' great rushing explosion against the Green Bay Packers in that NFC Championship game, 6.8 yards per carry. I mean, it was historic. Mike McDaniel was the run game coordinator. Now, with Mike LaFleur gone, you'll see Mike McDaniel also take over pass game coordinator roles. So he's the offensive coordinator. He has the title now, and I think it's an accurate title. I think he's coordinating a lot of things while Kyle Shanahan remains the play caller on Sundays. And that's the important delineation to make, because I think when we're talking about how cohesive the 49ers offensive brain trust is, it starts with the trust between Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan. Now, yesterday, a reporter asked Mike McDaniel if he plans to take over some play calling duties, maybe a drive here, a drive there. And Mike McDaniel's response was to shake his head. And here's his quote. I think one of the best aspects that the San Francisco 49ers have going is that we have one of the best play callers to have done it. He's done it for multiple teams for years, and it's a real gift of his. So I don't think that does the 49ers any good to try to work me in selfishly as the play caller. That's what Mike McDaniel said. Straight up said, I don't want a single possession of play calling responsibilities. I'm fine with where I'm at. I like to design the plays, and I like to give Kyle Shanahan input before he makes the calls. But clearly, Mike McDaniel has left his ego at the door. And the rest of his answers were impressive as well yesterday. I've obviously talked to Mike McDaniel before yesterday in less formal interview settings. There's the banner, the backdrop. It was on a Zoom call. So everything was more formal. And the one thing that struck me going all the way back to my first conversation with Mike McDaniel is how he really thoughtfully tries to attack your question and not attack in a bad way. He's trying to attack it to give you the best possible answer. So this guy will think through the whole question, think through his whole answer, and give a nice meaty answer that he really emphasizes the finish of that answer. So he really emphasizes wrapping it up neatly so that he's given you the full answer. It's not going to be some kind of recycled press conference garbage. That's what he did before the press conference. That's what he did years ago. And yesterday he tried to do the same thing, to the point where after one of Mike McDaniel's answers yesterday, he even said, did I answer your question right? Okay, good. Thumbs up. He even gave the thumbs up after one of his answers. So he takes such detail-oriented pride in answering every single question. And I think that provides us insight into how the 49ers design plays. I feel that there's a very detail-oriented pride behind Mike McDaniel's play design, behind Kyle Shanahan's play design. And even though not much is going to change from a football operational standpoint, in moving forward in this situation, because obviously, Kyle Shanahan's still going to call the plays, Mike McDaniel's still going to design them. Stuff will change from a media standpoint. Offensive coordinators in the NFL do regular press conferences by rule. So because of that, we got to see Mike McDaniel in the press conference yesterday, whereas in the past, we didn't get to see Mike McDaniel in these kinds of situations. And that gives us a look under the hood of how the 49ers operate. And I think everybody should be excited about that, because I think Mike McDaniel is a super honest guy and obviously is a good source into talking about how the 49ers operate. So one of the nuggets that I gained from this that I think was nice and meaty is where exactly does Mike McDaniel contribute on game days? We know that he designs the plays. He's designed them, the run game at least, for the past 4 years. A lot of that work happens on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then starting on Wednesdays when the players come in, that is installed. All the offensive packages are installed. Well, on game days, Mike McDaniel detailed a bit of his role, and this is another one of his quotes from yesterday. There are a lot of times when Kyle will say, hey, we need to do something out of shotgun, or we need more motions, or we need less motions, or we need more audibles. He'll be attempting to get that kind of abstract vision, and I'll put the details on it. Now, all of this is happening over the headset, right? Because McDaniel and Shanahan are communicating over the radio. And Kyle Shanahan will have an idea of what he wants to run, because you have to look at play calling from both a zoomed out perspective and a intricate, detailed perspective. You have to combine both. And, Shanahan, there's a lot going on. It's a chaotic situation on the football sideline. Shanahan might notice the 49ers aren't ambidextrous with their play calls, that they're a little right heavy, a little run heavy, or they need more motion, or, they need to bring the opposing safety into the box. So in general, he can hit more crossers a little bit further down the field. There could be generic things that Kyle Shanahan notices that he wants to implement. And that's where Mike McDaniel comes in. He gets on his headset and he says, hey, we need more motions. We need more audibles. We need to do something to play this chess match and gain the upper hand against the defense. And that's where you get the mad scientist and Mike McDaniel coming in, and he'll furiously scribble something up. He'll find something in the playbook, maybe an adaptation of something in the playbook, and he'll give Kyle Shanahan his thoughts. And then Kyle Shanahan, based on that input and that feedback, will make his play call in the heat of battle. That takes a remarkable amount of trust between multiple people. A lot of times, and you'll hear stories about this all the time, about how teams call plays and what happens on the radio, there is a huge amount of ego. I mean, there's even been a situation in which I've heard at the higher football level, this is not with the 49ers, that a head coach got mad and he literally shut off an offensive coordinator's headset because the coach was calling the plays and he was tired of the offensive coordinator giving a certain amount of input, and the coach wanted his plays to go and he overruled the coordinator, and then he got tired of hearing from him, so he straight up shut off his headset. I mean, I've heard of that happening at a high level of football before, and it's no surprise that the team in question of that game lost the football game. So it's really important that egos are left at the door, and that these collaborations between head coach and offensive coordinator and the other coaches on the headset work in real time. In the heat of battle, with emotions running high, you need to be able to process the correct information and then make the best possible decision. And based on a lot of the stuff that Mike McDaniel was saying yesterday, which this is stuff that we hadn't heard yet about the 49ers thought process, I thought that it was an indication that the 49ers do a relatively good job, at least, of that. This is another great quote from Mike McDaniel about his relationship with Kyle Shanahan as it pertains to that cohesiveness. We're very comfortable in our working relationship, and he relies on my opinion, but he also makes it very clear that his expectation is that my opinion is informed and that it adds value to him. And that's really all that we're focused on here moving forward, because no one cares about a cool idea that's independent. An idea is cool if it's applicable to the defense, it's applicable to the talents of your particular players, and it fits within everything that you're trying to do. Because at the end of the day, there are no standalone plays. Everything's got to be tied together and serve a purpose so that it can fit the desired ends. I mean, how often do you hear an offensive coordinator or a football coach talk in such detailed terms about the cohesiveness of the room? Maybe I'm a football nerd and I just appreciate this a lot, but I like the look into how the 49ers operate, because that, as opposed to hot takes and clickbait, I mean, actually looking at how the 49ers operate, that's going to help us predict how they're going to make this work in 2021, right? And yesterday we got such a cool glimpse into it. So here, again, I'm going to share the article. Go and check it out. I thought this was a fantastic glimpse to how the 49ers have been operating. This goes back a long way. I mean, it's really interesting. Mike McDaniel, first he did the investment banking internship one summer at Yale. Then he decided he's only passionate about football. He doesn't want to do that. So he's from the Denver area. So he sends an application into Mike Shanahan and the Broncos. And Mike McDaniel's first job is as an intern for Mike Shanahan with the Broncos in 2005. He didn't know Kyle. It wasn't until the next season when Gary Kubiak, who was Denver's offensive coordinator in 2005, took the head coaching job for the Houston Texans, that Mike McDaniel met Kyle Shanahan, because the Texans hired Mike's son, Kyle, who was a GA for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers under John Gruden. Kyle Shanahan became the wide receivers coach at Houston, and Gary Kubiak brought Mike McDaniel, who had done such a good job as an intern for the Broncos, and he told Mike McDaniel, hey, your job is just to assist Kyle. So from that point on, Mike McDaniel has been working under Kyle Shanahan, with the exception of a 2-year stint to coach the Sacramento Mountain Lions in 2009 and 2010. The Mountain Lions were in the United Football League. I believe that team is now defunct, and that league is now defunct. But what a story, right? From investment banking intern to intern for Mike Shanahan, to being thrown into a room with Kyle Shanahan, to being Kyle Shanahan's longest tenured lieutenant. And now he is Kyle Shanahan's offensive coordinator. And obviously, when Kyle Shanahan, and such a good play caller, is in the mix, you're not going to be a play calling offensive coordinator. But I hope that I've illustrated how much Mike McDaniel does. Let's answer some questions. Any questions about Mike McDaniel? I just want to keep this shorter. I just want to do little 15 to 20 minute ones talking about all my articles so that we keep this active throughout the off season. I don't see many questions. I just see comments, which is good. And of course, it's Mike McDaniel who's going to be designing plays for Trey Lance. Also designing plays for Jimmy Garoppolo, but for Trey Lance, that gets everybody excited because the 49ers spent so much capital on Trey Lance. So Mike McDaniel is a huge part of what the 49ers will be doing moving forward. It's absolutely a guy you should read up on. The link is there. This is all integral to the 49ers. You have to get beyond the surface level, and I thought we had a great opportunity to do that yesterday. Anyway, the 49ers rookies are still in the building, even though OTA practices have ended. The offseason program is not fully over. Trey Lance, those guys are still in the building. Biggest pieces of offseason business are to extend Fred Warner. I think that's going to happen before training camp. But they also have to finalize rookie contracts for Trey Lance, for Ambry Thomas, and for Trey Sermon, which very, very quietly aren't yet done. I'll do another YouTube live here in the next couple of days to start talking about that. But that's all on the docket, especially after the rookies go home, and they could focus on getting that done with their agents. And then on July 27th, players will report. Don't worry. In the meantime, I'll be doing a ton of these YouTube lives, so make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell everybody about them. Hopefully we can get into that deep analysis beyond the surface level. I hope you enjoyed this one. And we'll talk to all of you soon. Thank you.